And now in McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it wonderful to get into something positive for a change? The ongoing saga of our growing economy. Instead of dealing with issues, and to quote the Honourable Annette King straight out of Mad magazine, something I think we've spent a fair bit of this afternoon dealing with, frankly. I also, Mr. Speaker, heard Stephen Browning referring to my hometown of Tangimoana this afternoon. He was speaking of it as though it was some alien village, and I'm sure it's not. I live there. So, Mr. Speaker, the past few months have been very testing for many in rural New Zealand. The drought, a significant event across the North Island, has had a significant effect on many parts of our farming community. It will also have a long-term effect on many of our rural communities and the economic activity that takes place in those towns. I also want to very briefly mention at the same time the other thing I think is a significant drain on rural New Zealand, and that's the meat industry and the lower sheep meat prices we've been suffering from at this present time. Both of those issues are going to compound on the near future, and certainly probably the next 2 years' future of our hill country in New Zealand. I want to talk about a couple of the bright lights on the horizon, and certainly the dairy industry in the last few weeks has had a significant lift in price, giving new confidence and buoyancy to that sector, and I'm sure that's going to assist greatly in the recovery from the drought. The other issue I want to mention briefly, and I think it's very important to us, is the log market. And it's apparent by the large number of logging trucks, lumbering down our roads on a daily basis to our ports, that this industry is in a time of buoyancy that it hasn't seen for some time. As more and more wood comes to the market in the next few years, it will increase the pressure on our roads, further justifying the Government's Roads of National Significance program and making the work, particularly in my area from Levin to Wellington, or the Levin Northern Corridor, including Transmission Gully as it is known, even more relevant to our futures in the lower North Island. And whilst Labor and the Greens appear to totally fail to understand the value of these roading developments to our economy, the people of my electorate, and oddly enough the people of Palmerston North, stand to gain significantly from massive efficiency and cost saving created by these new roading systems. For example, we'll be able to move an extra truck and trailer a load of logs from the lower end of my electorate to the Port of Wellington on a daily basis, making those trucks almost 30% more efficient. That's a significant productivity gain for the lower North Island. I talked of the drought on the North Island having seriously affected the ability of our farmers, and it's seriously affected the ability of our farmers to bank anything, Mr. Speaker. They unfortunately all fully understand the content of their bank accounts. Certainly many would love to suffer from the affliction suffered by the Leader of the Opposition, that of not needing to remember what they have or have not in their bank accounts. I wish to commend the performance of Federated Farmers during the course of this recent drought and record the fact that I believe they've been outstanding in their efforts to assist farmers as they strive for solutions to what is certainly a serious economic event for our rural towns and indeed our farmers. It also needs to be recorded here, I think, that our farmers have become much more resilient over the years and for the most part have very good contingency plans in place to manage this type of event. The difference in this instance is that this drought has affected places such as the West Coast and the Tamarui-Taihape area, which are certainly rare events. There are some very positive things happening in my region. Over the hill in John Hayes' electorate, we at last have an oil rig setting up business. I hate to say it's in John Hayes' region, and I hate to say watch out Taranaki, but I can confidently say that the Hawke's Bay will be the next oil boom in New Zealand. I hope the opposition can again get their heads around that. I also want to briefly touch, as Maggie Barry has, on the RMA reforms. I've had the privilege, I guess, of hosting or being part of a number of forums on the Resource Management Act in recent weeks, and I think we'll make some very positive progress in this area. It will lift the shackles from many of our growth initiatives and improve our environmental responsibility at the same time. Often one finds when you give people their head, they take responsibility they didn't take before. Mr. Speaker, this government has made some great progresses with its policies to grow our economy when much of the rest of the world is suffering from the malaise of the GFC. And I want to just very quickly refer to a couple of figures that I think are really interesting. One is the growth of trade with China from 2007 till now. In 2007, that trade was around the $2 billion mark. It is now around the $6.9 billion mark. Extraordinary gain. At the same time, trade with the UK has moved from $1.6 billion to $1.3 billion. I think that speaks for the change in our environment. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The time for this debate has expired. I wish to announce the correction of a vote. On the 27th of March, when the Committee of the Whole House was considering the Definition of Marriage Amendment Bill, the results of 2 votes were announced incorrectly. The vote on the question that Tim McIndoe's amendment to Clause 5A set out on Supplementary Order Paper number 203 be agreed to was incorrectly announced as ayes 36, noes 80. The correct result is ayes 36, noes